Assalamu alaikum, sister. Thank you for writing to our live session. As I understand, you've been married for a few years now. However, there's always been arguments between you and your husband because you state you come from two different backgrounds. This was never a reason for you to leave your husband. However, currently you're not feeling loved, and it has led you to think about divorce. You state that your husband doesn't show any type of interest in you. He doesn't spend quality time with you. He doesn't compliment you, and he doesn't say, I love you, unless you tell him. And then even then, he doesn't really look at you when he says it. You state that he's always on his phone, and the only time that you get a hug is when you go to him. He never comes to you with affection. So, sister, I guess one of the questions I have that I want you to think about is how much of this is like a truly situation where he maybe doesn't love you, or is this a situation where he was raised culturally different to not be as affectionate or show as much affection? You didn't say which cultures you both came from. And I'm not, real familiar when it comes to different cultural expectations and displays of affection in the variants. So with that said, you might want to look at like his family, his culture, his traditions, and how people express themselves affectionately, right? Because that might not be one of the things that he was, raised to do, or it may not have been part of his culture to show love physically or with compliments and things like that, right? So maybe his way of showing that he loves you is by financially supporting you, being supportive of your endeavors, and providing, opportunities for Islamic, knowledge and education and things like that. So there's different ways of showing love. However, when it comes to a husband and a wife, right, and it's kind of universal sometimes in a way, that a husband and a wife do compliment one another, they do hug one another, they do display affection. Now, granted, it could be to varying degrees based on, their culture or how they were raised, their family values, etc. But generally speaking, yes, couples do show affection for one another and strive to make each other feel loved and cherished and valued. So apparently you are not feeling this way. He's not, displaying loving and affectionate and affirming actions or indications that make you feel that he loves you. And also another question I had, sister, is when did this start? If you could think back upon when this started and when you started feeling unloved and when he started feeling more distant, that might be helpful in kind of determining what the problem may be, right? Like, I'm sure you didn't like meet him and, get to know him a little bit in a halal way. And he was very loving and open and seemed to be like he would be affectionate. And then all of a sudden, he just, he just stopped. Or I'm sure you wouldn't marry him if you had indication that, he came from a background or he was not going to be one who would express his love, support, or affection. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like you're going to marry somebody that you're not going to be happy with or you feel that doesn't love you. So at some point you thought that he loved you, you felt that he loved you, right? So when we think somebody loves us, that's different than feeling somebody loves us, right? You could say, oh yes, my husband loves me. But then can you say, my husband makes me feel loved? So it's two different things. So at this point, it seems like you're looking at, my husband does not make me feel loved. So sister, inshallah, if you could sit down with him, and I know you've tried talking to him before, but just sit down with him and kindly express, how much you love him and that, you would like to save the marriage, that you don't want to get divorced, that you really love him truly, but you would like to resolve the issue of you feeling unloved, right? Because in a marriage, it's two people's feelings. It's not just one. So your feelings matter very much, and they're just as equally as important as his. So if you're unhappy and you're feeling unloved, there is a problem. And inshallah, he will be in a place where he can, accept that you're feeling this way, accept there's a problem in the marriage and want to work on it. So I would kindly suggest, sister, yes, please do speak with him again. Just maybe make a list of the points that you loved about him and how good he made you feel when you first married him. And try to pinpoint what happened between that time and when he changed, right? When he stopped showing love and stopped being affectionate and stopped, paying attention to you and valuing your presence. So try to pinpoint that time and see if there's anything major that happened, like did he lose his job? Did he get a promotion at a job? Did something happen in his family or your family? So kind of look at those variables surrounding it and maybe speak with him about it and see how he feels and how it affected him. And maybe, he kind of withdrew after something happened. I'm not really sure, but I'm just trying to give you ideas to go on, to possibly, discuss or bring up when you speak with him. And again, when you speak with him, of course, speak with him in a loving way. Try not to be emotional. I know this is a very emotional subject and topic, and it's hard, but the less emotional and upset that you are, the more he will be apt to listen to you, inshallah, right? So if somebody's going to talk to us and it's an important subject and it's about us, if they come at us like really upset and, either angry or sad and very distraught, we're going to kind of like pull away a little bit, right? Because that's kind of sometimes the human thing to do, because a lot of times people don't want to be confronted or they don't want to deal with problems and issues. But if you come to him and just try to remain focused on the task at hand, which is conveying your feelings and your thoughts and your ideas in a concrete way that is filled with love, but not emotion, or like a lot of emotion. Obviously, love is emotion, but not a lot of emotion, so that he will shut down. And again, it may be hard because your feelings and emotions are involved. But I'm just asking to consider tempering it a little bit and trying to just, show him concretely, like 1, 2, 3, 4, how you feel and, how much you love him and want to save the marriage. And ask him how he thinks he can help you with this problem, right? Because sometimes when we ask people for their advice and ask them, like, especially when we ask advice of our spouse or a family member, it puts them in a position where they're probably likely going to respond because they feel like their input is important. So if you ask him, oh, well, how can I manage this? Or how can you help me get through this? Or how can I feel loved, right? Or make up your own list of questions that might inspire a more open and transparent conversation regarding the subject. So please do try talking to him. And it may be that, of course he loves you, but perhaps he's just sidetracked. Perhaps he's stressed. Perhaps there's problems going on that you don't know about. Or perhaps this is just him. This is how he is. This is how he was raised. This is how he relates to people. And in a marriage, this, obviously it's not acceptable. So anyhow, at any rate, sister, please take it one step at a time. Speak with him and see, where you both are at. Pinpoint any, events or things that happened that changed him, and make a decision moving forward based on this conversation, what you would like to do. If it doesn't work out with the conversation, I would kindly suggest that you both participate in marriage counseling if he's willing. If he's not willing, then sister, perhaps you would like to participate in counseling on an ongoing basis to try to figure out, where you are in all of this and how you feel and what you would like to do, right? Because you're 23 years old and you have your whole life ahead of you. So if he's not going to be willing to, change and be more affectionate, more supportive, and more loving towards you, then you might want to rethink things. But I have a feeling that, inshallah, he's going to respond positively eventually, and you will work this out, inshallah. We wish you the best.